My horror began with a trip to the country house. Recently, I buried my parents. They died in a car accident. One of their favorite traditions was a trip to the country house in December when the first snow fell. So, when it happened, I wanted to keep up the good family tradition, and I decided to go there. It was scary to go alone to the large country house, especially in the wilderness where there were practically no neighbors around. I wanted to invite a friend along, but the tradition was that only family members should be present at the country house during the first December frosts. At night, I had a hard time falling asleep. Different thoughts were racing through my head. What if someone broke into the house during the night or the lights suddenly went out? That often happens. Or what if I saw the household spirit? My parents believed in it very much and even made offerings to it. They had a special small table for the spirit, where they left sweets and wine for it. Honestly, that always scared me. But when I woke up in the morning, I felt confident. The fear from the previous night had vanished as if it had never been there. Beautiful snow was falling outside the window. After breakfast, I quickly packed all the necessary things into the car and headed to the country house. The road was very beautiful. Everything around was white, like in a fairy tale. And the best part was that the bad thoughts had stopped haunting me. Upon reaching the country house, I struggled to open the gate. Entering the house, I immediately felt cozy. Many things reminded me of my parents. The last time we were here, my mom and I were cleaning the house while my dad was cleaning the fireplace. In the evening, I decided to make a barbecue according to my dad's recipe, and when everything was ready, I sat down to the long-awaited dinner. At that moment, I was reminiscing about my parents. Suddenly, I heard a rustling sound from the second floor. I got seriously worried, grabbed the poker, and cautiously went upstairs, but there was no one there. The only thing that scared me was the small table for the household spirit, on which stood a small figurine of this entity, various expired sweets, and an empty glass. The candies were gnawed, and I realized there were probably mice running around the house. I must have heard them. I felt uneasy and decided to replace the candies and fill the glass for the spirit just in case. Then I went downstairs. I hoped the spirit wouldn't be offended that I had put out sugar-free candies since I don't eat sugar. After finishing dinner, I went to bed on the second floor. Sleep wouldn't come, and the tears wouldn't stop flowing. I decided to distract myself by watching YouTube. My recommendations were, as usual, videos about fashion, news videos, different reviews, and recipes. Suddenly, a strange video appeared with the title, "How to Exorcise a Demon." The video thumbnail was very realistic and scared me a lot. I quickly exited the app and reopened it to make the video disappear from the recommendations. But where did it even come from? I understand that this might seem silly to you, but when you're alone in a large country house and such a video pops up, it's really creepy. As I was scrolling through the feed looking for another video, I heard the sound of dishes breaking downstairs. Fear enveloped me, and I froze, listening to the sounds in the house. The thought started spinning in my head that maybe I shouldn't have come alone. Maybe I hadn't placed the dishes properly. The sound stopped, and gradually, I began to calm down and feel sleepy. Just as I was about to fall asleep, I heard a sound in the house. Someone started howling. Terror seized me, and sleep fled. I thought it might be the household spirit. Could it be angry about the unfamiliar candies? I began to plead with it not to scare me. To my great relief, it became quiet again. Around 3 in the morning, I finally managed to fall asleep. Suddenly, I was awakened by a very loud noise on my floor. My hands began to tremble, and I jumped out of bed, clutching the doorknob since there was no lock on the door. I started crying and begging not to be scared. I stood there for about 40 minutes until dawn broke. I quickly got dressed, and after carefully approaching the door, I opened it. What I saw terrified me. The small table for the household spirit was overturned on the floor. After catching my breath a little, I cautiously went downstairs. Passing through the kitchen, I saw a broken glass. I grabbed my bag, turned off the electricity, and headed for the front door. As I approached it, I heard the howling in the house again. I immediately bolted outside, locked the door, started the car, and drove away. After reaching the city and my apartment, the first thing I did was take a sedative, and only then was I able to breathe out. It was calm at home, but I still felt uneasy. A lot of questions were swirling in my head. What was that? Why? Why now? I was terribly upset and hurt. I could only come up with one explanation. It was the household spirit. But why did it treat me like that, especially during such a difficult time? Maybe I should have replaced the sweets right away or brought the same ones my parents used to leave. All of this made me incredibly angry. I wasn't sure if I could go back there again, and yet my parents had pleaded with me not to abandon the house if something happened. It had been very hard for them to get it. I decided to think about it later. That evening, after dinner, I immediately wanted to sleep. My sleepless night was catching up with me. I turned off the lights and lay down in bed. A sharp crack came from the kitchen, followed by the sound of breaking dishes. I pulled the covers over my head and started asking my parents to protect me. "Everything will be okay, daughter," I heard a very quiet voice, similar to my mother's. "Mom? Dad?" There was no response, but the words, "Everything will be okay," calmed me down. I got out of bed and turned on the light in the room. Then, I wanted to check what had fallen. I opened the door and walked down the dark corridor to turn on the light. When I reached the switch, I quickly pressed it, but the light didn't come on. I turned on my phone's flashlight and saw that the light bulb was missing from the chandelier. My temples started throbbing with fear. I bolted back to my room, but halfway there, the door slammed shut in front of me with a loud bang. Terrified, I screamed and ran back into my room, locking the door behind me. Oh God, what's happening? I didn't know what to do. I had only one desire: to be in a safe place with lots of people. I even wanted to call a psychiatric hospital to have them take me away and give me the strongest sedatives. But, unfortunately, I couldn't do that. I wouldn't be allowed to travel abroad afterward. Maybe the household spirit was still haunting me. I heard howling from the corridor. I felt like I couldn't endure this tension any longer. I decided to read about household spirits on the internet. There were many similar stories, but no one had experienced so many things at once. Maybe it was something else? For some reason, that scary video about exorcising a demon came to mind. So I decided to read about demons. There was much more that matched my situation. This only made it scarier. I decided to try to find that video, but it didn't appear. There were many others, but I really wanted to watch that specific video for some reason. "You won't find it," said a voice that didn't sound human, followed by a powerful bang on the door. From the tension, my head started spinning and I blacked out. Unfortunately, I quickly regained consciousness. Something was banging on the door. I decided to read about similar situations on the internet, and on some forum, I accidentally came across a man who had encountered the same thing. To my great relief, he had left his phone number on the forum. Without thinking, I dialed it. "Hello," answered a sleepy male voice. "Please help me. I read your post on the forum. The same thing is happening to me. Terrible things are happening in my house. Someone is trying to break in. I'm begging you, please help me. What did you do to make it go away? The main thing is to stay calm. Everything will be okay. Tell me your address," the man requested. I quickly gave it to him, forgetting about the potential danger. "You won't believe it, but you're dealing with a very devious demon. It will scare and torment you until you watch that video." A sudden pop came from the room. The light bulb exploded. Terrified, I screamed again. "Miss, calm down. I'm sending you the video now. Play it, and everything will be fine." Thank you so much." Immediately, the video appeared on my phone. I wanted to play it, but another powerful bang hit the door. Startled, I dropped the phone and it fell awkwardly, shutting off and refusing to turn back on. At that moment, I felt utterly helpless. The banging on the door continued, and it felt like it wouldn't hold, just like me. You think you can escape from me? Look at that window over there. You'll find freedom there, said the voice. The door began to crack under the force of the blows. I tried to pull myself together and, with all my remaining strength, started moving the dresser toward the door. I held out until dawn. With the first rays of the sun, the banging stopped. About 20 minutes later, the doorbell rang. I felt like it was another trick, but I desperately wanted to get out of that apartment. After moving the dresser aside, I cautiously stepped out and ran to the front door. Without even checking the peephole, I opened it. A stranger stood in the hallway. "Don't be afraid, you called me, right?" I immediately hugged him. "Did you watch the video I sent you?" "No, I couldn't. My phone broke." "For now, you can relax. The demon is weaker during the day. May I come in?" He entered and we watched the video together. "There. Now it won't come back." "How did you come across that video?" I told him everything about my trip to the country house and how I was grieving for my parents. "You won't believe it, but when I lost my wife and was also in despair, that cursed video suddenly appeared in my recommendations too. This demonic entity senses deep emotional pain and delivers that cursed video. When someone watches it, the entity appears near them and torments them. Unfortunately, it can't be killed, but watching the video makes it go away," the man explained to me. "But how did you get that video that can't be found?" "That's a very interesting and long story, but I'll save it for another time. I can't even imagine how many people this entity has driven mad."